Thank you. Somebody tell me when we're live so we can welcome our online friends. Okay, welcome to those of you back in the room after our sessions this morning, and to all of those of you joining us online. We want to say greetings again from beautiful St. Augustine. We hope it would be possible for you to be with us next year. Mark your calendars. Everybody take out your phone, mark your calendars, January 3 to 5 next year. Make sure you have that down so you can plan your trip, and maybe you can add some donor visits or some vacation around those dates right after the holidays. Also, just a reminder to everyone online and those of us in the room, all of the sessions, the breakout sessions, are pre-recorded and are available on our website, as well as, wait for it, all of the sessions from 2021 and 2022. So you could maybe gather your team, select a few to watch together, and then have some Q&A around those together as a team, or watch them individually. And we are moving now to a very important announcement from Brad and our team member Wendy to talk to you about an important event we want you all to be a part of.
Yeah.
Who's up first?
Wendy.
Thanks, Ted. Hi, everyone. We just want to talk about Giving Day 2023. So if you've participated in our Giving Day in the past, let's see a hand in the room. We've got some incredible success stories, and we'd love to just talk through what that looks like. So this year it'll be May 3rd. That's a Wednesday beginning at noon, and we'll go through Thursday, May 4th at 11:59 a.m. This is Eastern Time. It's a 24-hour time of giving.
Yeah, so Giving Day really started in St. Augustine. I had seen some really cool Giving Days around the country. Like like in Austin, Texas, they have Austin Gives. And they would rally, and lots of people would give money, and nonprofits would compete against other nonprofits to raise money. And I just thought, well, why doesn't St. Augustine have a Giving Day? And so I went to the United Way, I went to the Community Foundation, and I tried to get my friends there to sponsor Giving Day in St. Augustine. I could never get them to say yes. And so after 2 or 3 years of trying, I just decided that the focus group, that I would put it on, right? That we would put on the St. Augustine Giving Day. And we did it in that very first year. Lauren is in the room. Where is Lauren? Lauren was working for the focus group, and she was, I think it was interning from Flagler College, and she helped launch a Giving Day for us and did a great job. And we helped about 40 nonprofits in St. Augustine raise about $100,000. It was really fun. It's really not a major donor thing. It's a get people to give small gifts, first gifts. The fundraising principle is people give when they're asked, right? So this causes something to rally. Wendy and I, my wife and I, put up the prize money, and so we gave away like $10,000 in prizes, and whoever got the first gift after midnight got $500, right? Like, so it's just a gimmicky thing to get people to give, and since I like giving, right?
Yes, there are some prizes of things, but in 2021, we really saw, after COVID, events were hard, right? And this is a great acquisition tool. And so we expanded to our focus group clients. We brought them on board in 2021 and doubled the prizes to nonprofits.
Right.
So focus group clients participate in one leaderboard, and then our St. Augustine clients participate in another leaderboard. And that year we had over 1,675 individual donors.
So once a person becomes a donor, it's your job to get to steward the gift and say thank you. And so this is really just an on-ramp. Like, how do you find new donors? It's through stuff like this. And so it was really fun to expand it. We said any focus group client had their own leaderboard, competed, and then there was the St. Augustine, and we did that. And so the first year I told you we raised about $100,000, 47 nonprofits. And then we did it the second year, which was only St. Augustine again, doubled and had 61 nonprofits. And then Wendy.
In 2021, we did that, 57 nonprofits, and then we grew in 2022 to 57 nonprofits. Over 2,000 donors participated, and we raised $613,000. And we were on live stream the whole time. Sorry, wow, whoops. I talk with my hands. We were on live stream. We had St. Augustine and our local TSC nonprofits here in the room, and we had a big party, and it was really exciting. exciting to see that number tick up to the 600,000 mark.
Yeah, locally in St. Augustine, one of the first year in 2019, a donor, where we were just trying to get little gifts, a donor gave $5,000. That was what we asked for, a small gift, and they gave $5,000. And that donor has gone on to give that local nonprofit over $1 million. And so it's not recorded in the Giving Day numbers, right? Because they did a good job of stewarding a first gift, right? And after several years, amazing things happen. And so Vanjie, should we do it again?
We should do it again. We're doing it again. Registration opens February 16th. You will be hearing from our team, but we wanted to just throw up the different clients that participated last year. Some of them it was a first time, some it was a second time. We've got a few just, what did they say, very successful. They set their targets low, blew those goals out of the water, helped them develop some new channels of giving, found that community members want to give. Sorry about that. Community members want to give but haven't been given the opportunity, and so this was a really great opportunity for them to do that. And then you can see there just a story of someone who's increased over year. They learn, they refine. We offer webinars. We want you to be successful. So we offer trainings. We offer one-on-one. We help you with your site. We make all the things possible for you to do it. And so this year our goal is, I think we're aiming for $1 million this year.
Because so far, if you look at the last 4 or 5 years, whatever we've been doing it for, we've raised $1.2 million. And so my hope is that this year we raise $1 million, right? And so, like, I love this, and, it's free. Like, we don't charge you anything, right? So there's no fee to participate. And if this makes sense for you, you will be invited. And if you can use this to raise a bunch of money, small gifts, it'd be incredible. Howard is here from PCA, a classical Christian school in Louisiana, and they participated last year, and they raised like $100,000. It was amazing. And so, good job, Howard. They were the top winner, which means they got extra money, right? Because those gimmicks are fun, right?
We love to give away prizes.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
So that was our big sell for that. So thank you. Yeah, the last thing that I want to mention before we transition to a fun video is we have a new thing that the focus group is going to do. We've been doing training for a long time, and in May, we're going to have the Focus Institute. And we have been doing campaign manager training every 6 months, and we bring people here, and we train campaign managers. And it's a wonderful group of about 15 to 20 people. We've been asked if we would expand that and actually have a set time to train major gift officers and new people in their positions of vice president of development or advancement. And so we really are just responding and saying, yeah, sure, we'd love to do that too. And so those are the dates. If you lead an organization and that makes sense for you, we'll be sending something out about that to you. But it'll be right back here in May, and then we'll do it again in the fall. So that'll be up and coming. But right now we want to show a short video about one of our clients who's hit their campaign goals. I've not led this project, but Convoy of Hope is doing an incredible thing around the world. And when I think about fundraising, it's only an ends to a means. The means is to change lives. It's the kids that you see in Courtney's video, and when you watch this video, you'll understand some of the power that happens through generosity. And so please enjoy this with me.
I continue to be amazed at the opportunities that God has given Convoy of Hope to Hi, Hal Donaldson here, and I continue to be amazed at the opportunities that God has given Convoy of Hope to serve millions of people in the United States and around the world. As you know, the needs out there are great, but with your help, our team is rising to the challenge and we're giving people hope. In 2019, Convoy of Hope's Board of Directors accepted a generous offer to purchase our existing warehouse in Springfield, Missouri. And that opened the door for the purchase of 156 acres and the construction of a new World Distribution Center and Global Headquarters and Training Center. But please know, we made a commitment early on to build this new facility without diminishing the number of children and families that we're serving. Because the purpose of the new facility is to enable us to help more people and to reach more communities. Well, through the support and generosity of our community and faithful partners like you, the new World Distribution Center was dedicated in October. In addition, we broke ground on the Global Headquarters and Training Center. Now, the Training Center, which will be completed in summer 2023, will teach and equip tens of thousands of people each year in best practices related to community development and compassion ministry. And through the use of technology, our Agriculture Center will provide training to farmers and families all over the world. This new complex will enable us to feed 1 million children each day at school and empower thousands of women to start their own businesses and help thousands of farmers increase their yields and serve hundreds of thousands of disaster survivors across the United States and around the world. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us in this vision and considering how you might help us cross the finish line. But thank you so much for faithfully supporting the mission of Convoy of Hope to serve people in the United States and all over the world. God bless.
Fundraising than youth ministry. And so over the years, word got out that Brad was really good at raising support. And so he was asked by other area directors to coach them around the country in raising their support. And so Brad was coaching other area directors. At some point, he began raising money, millions of dollars nationally for Young Life. And over the course of a 20-year career, advanced to the role of Chief Development Officer for Young Life nationally. After 20 years at Young Life, he left about 12 years ago to become the successor to the founder of the focus group. When Brad took over the focus group, the whole team could sit at one of these tables twice if everybody was working at the same time. It was very small and largely as a result of his boundless energy and optimism. Today we're a team of 34 people located all around the U.S., serving an amazing group of clients all over the world. We can host an event that requires 5 trolleys to carry everybody around downtown St. Augustine. And if you know how generous and entrepreneurial Brad is, you're probably not surprised. All these experiences have given Brad a really special perspective because not only has he had to raise his own personal support, he's also had to raise millions of dollars for a large organization. But he's also had some entrepreneurial success that's allowed him to have the mindset of a major donor and to practice generosity himself. And now, in just a few weeks, Brad will probably be a best-selling author. Some of you know that he's written a book. After 30 years in fundraising, Brad has taken all his best stories and insights and written a book so that as many people as possible can learn the principles and practices that all of you are using in your organizations and institutions to fund your ministries. The book is called Turning Donors into Partners, Principles for Fundraising You'll Actually Enjoy. It's published by InterVarsity Press, and it will be released on January 24th. You all have copies at your table, and I encourage you to read it. In fact, I think there's a card if you wanted to order some more. There's a giant discount and free shipping using those QR codes. Those are a lot of amazing accomplishments Brad's had. He has a lot of expertise, but the most important thing I want you to know about Brad is his character and his heart. It takes a lot of energy, creativity, discipline, and faith to do all that he does. And it's only possible because there's a really powerful why driving him. For Brad, it's his passion to see the kingdom of God advanced through his own work and his generosity and through the work of all of our clients and our friends. So it's an honor to work with him, and welcome up here. Brad, come on up and talk to us.
Thank you. What you don't know is that when we were in Young Life together, I did not have a personal relationship with Christ, and Steve did. And I never forget the day that Steve confronted me very nicely and said, "Brad, have you ever committed your life to Christ?" And I had no idea what he was talking about. And then that began a process. And so Steve is the one that led me to faith in Christ. So it's an honor to get to work with him. You know, the title I wanted to start with is this concept: does any of this really matter? And you've heard that the mission of the focus group is to build the kingdom of God and helping organizations raise money. And in doing that, I get to the privilege of interacting with lots of major donors. And recently I was in Atlanta with a major donor on behalf of one of our clients, and this major donor said to me, in a moment of discouragement, does any of this even matter? The world is really in horrible shape, and there's so much conflict in our world. It's great that there's this organization we're talking about, and they're doing a good thing, but he basically said, isn't the world going to hell in a handbasket? And, I sat there, and it makes sense to me that he would feel discouraged and overwhelmed, because I feel that sometimes too, right? We all do. But I get to sit in a seat, and I get to interact with all of you, and I get to see God doing ridiculous things all over the world. Like the Convoy of Hope video. He just said, this new facility is going to allow us to feed, not a year, 1 million children a day, right? Like, that's ridiculous. And so I sat there across the table from this major donor, and I looked at him and I said, oh yeah, it really does. Like, it does. Like, it is working, right? But Courtney said it this morning, unsolicited to me. One of the things I see in this world is this scarcity survival mentality where we're all just trying to make it just to the minimum. And it's not that I'm trying to say that you're not awesome, because you are, but there's this idea, if I could just hit this goal, we'd be good, right? And there's something in us that I observe that keeps us from dreaming the dreams that we know we have, right? A more and better is not ending slavery in the world, right? There's these visions, there's homelessness. What would it take to end homelessness in your community, right? And we have these big goals, but there is this scarcity survival mentality that exists, and it's a problem. Now, the fact that you're here, and the fact that you're probably not this person, right? It's probably the person that's afraid to dream, right? Because you all are awesome. Like, I've seen you. So you're probably not a person that has a scarcity mentality, but I think we all have some of that inside of us, this fear of dreaming. And so today I wanted to talk about what I believe is the solution to our fear of dreaming. And I have 4 points I want to make. But in the Old Testament, in Numbers 13, talk verse 1 and 2, but you see Moses sending 12 people into the Promised Land to investigate. And he sends these 12 spies into the Promised Land to investigate, and 11 of the 12 are afraid. The Lord said to Moses, send some men to explore the land of Canaan. So they went up and explored the land. Caleb said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we certainly can do it. But the other 11 said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. All the people there are great of size. We seemed like grasshoppers to them, right? So there's 11 people who are basically saying, even though God said go, this is your land, there's 11 people saying, no, the odds are against us. And then there is Caleb, right, who says, no, I believe we can do it. So the focus group, we have a vision. Like, there's the mission of the focus group, right, which is to build the kingdom of God. But we have a vision. And as we worked as a team to figure out our vision, Our vision is to see God make all things new. All things, right? I really don't want more and better, right? I would like a redeemed world. God created a world that was perfect in his image. And I love, one of the things I enjoyed most about my book is being able to integrate the Bible into the book, right? Like you've heard us talk about 6 principles and 5 practices, but it was so fun to talk about Jesus at the center of the principles, right? Which up until writing this book, I had not necessarily given myself permission to do, right? And so it was super fun to do that. But in the book, I talk about the concept of God giving us a specific vision that we get to carry forward. And for us, as you consider your role, I say your role in making all things new. Like, in the beginning, God created the world perfect in his image. That's the first couple pages in the Bible, right? And then what happened? Well, Adam and Eve, they made some bad decisions, right? And then what did God do? God wrote the rest of the Bible is the story of God redeeming the world. It's 2 pages of how it was supposed to be, and about 1,500 pages or 1,200 pages, depending on the size of your font, okay? It's 1,200 pages of the story of God redeeming the world. And we're a part of that story. God is making all things new. And so when I say that the vision of the focus group is to see God make all things new, we can't do it. It's our clients. It's you. You have been put in this seat, and you have the opportunity to do something ridiculous in the world. And we just get to be a part of it by helping you raise the money. Money's the easy part. Funding is easy. Like, that is my observation. The work you do is hard. Sometimes we don't communicate the work we do in a way that donors give us the money, right? We don't have partners. We treat them the wrong way. That's not good. We can help you with that. But I can't help you. I don't know how to feed 1 million children a day. Like, I don't know how to do that. I just know how to help fund the building, right? And so our vision is that we'd see God make all things new through the work of our clients. And Jesus says in Revelations, that, behold, I'm making all things new. Again, Courtney and I did not integrate our talks, but she quoted the Isaiah reference to this verse this morning, which was super for me. And so I want to talk about what I believe is the 4 ways that we can move against the scarcity mentality, that we can fully be open to dream. Sometimes I'm so afraid to tell my wife something that I have to whisper, right? Like, it's scary to say it out loud, right? But there's 4 things that I want to talk about today. Not 3, 4. The first way that I believe that we can move against the scarcity mentality and be open to what God is doing is to passionately pursue a deep relationship with Christ, right? Like, the greatest strength I have is I have through my time with Jesus. And every morning when I get up and I spend an hour having my time and reading my Bible and praying, like, that is the thing that gives me the strength. It's not exercise, it's not email, it's Jesus. If I have one thing I do each day, it's that, right? I sometimes tell you that I have 4 disciplines. Like, if you know me, I have 4 things I try to do each day. It's time with Jesus, exercise, return all my email, and shower. Okay, so those are my 4, right? But the one that I always do is my time with Jesus, because it's not what we know, but who we know. And through a personal relationship with Christ and pursuing your time with Jesus, that's the thing that's going to give us our strength. We've been honored to recently start working with the Navigators and kind of got to be a big fan. I've always been a fan of the Navigators, but their founder said this. He said that soul winners are not soul winners because of what they know, but because of the person they know, how well they know him, and how much they long for others to know him. Fabulous quote, right? And so Romans 12:2, fabulous verse, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, which for me means I wake up every day and I pray and I read my Bible. And this year I finished reading the Bible through in a year about for the 10th year in a row, right? And Scripture is amazing, and I see new things each day. And I just challenge you. If you want to be free to do great things to change the world, then pursue a deep personal relationship with Christ. Second thing I want to talk about is to let God's grace flow through you. Romans 12 again, for by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance to the faith that God has given you. And so I believe that each of us has gifts, right? And they're different. And they're unique. And for me, I think my greatest gift is in the genre of stubbornness, right? Like I have run 2 Ironmans and I have run 50 marathons. And you know, when you run an Ironman, you should hire someone to teach you. It's not something you can do on your own. So I did hire an Ironman coach. And I paid this guy to tell me what to do, and I trained for a year. And he every day would tell me what to do for exercise. And it was a year of that. And I got done and I finished the race and I was super stoked and I didn't die. And I got done and I texted my coach and I said, I did it. And he said, well, of course you did. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, you did every single training exercise I assigned you. I said, well, doesn't everyone? He said, in 15 years, you were the first person that did every single thing I told you. And so maybe it's OCD. Maybe I'm stubborn. I don't know what it is, but I seem to be able to stay focused on something for a long time and stay at it. But I grew up around people that had different gifts. Like, I remember not being the guy that ever got invited to be a best man or like a groomsman in a wedding. That isn't me. And for a long time, I started kind of feeling like all my friends were getting married and all my other friends were up with them, and it kind of hurt. But then I realized that every single person that was getting married would come and meet with me to talk about how to pay for their wedding and how to pay for their honeymoon. And I realized that that's my gift. It's different, right? You have your own unique gift for the kingdom of God. And I want us to let God's grace flow through us. I'm an Enneagram 2. I'm a helper. Like if you know anything about the Enneagram, that's great. At the focus group, we loved giving people the Enneagram tests. Like before you work for the focus group, you have to take the Enneagram test. And what I've learned is that the 2 numbers that make very interesting consultants are Enneagram 8s, which are the people that confront and like speak and talk about all the problems, and then the 2s, who are really good at helping. And so what I like to do at the focus group is take an 8 and a 2 and put them on one project. Because the 8 says, hey, this is not gonna work. Everything's gonna go awful, it's awful and everything's horrible. And then the 2 steps like me, I'm like, no, it's gonna be fine, we can do it, right? And so like it's important that we all begin to reflect on what our gifts are. William Carey is known as the father of the Protestant missionary movement. And you know, he lived in the late 1700s, 1800s, and he's the first person really to go to India as a missionary. And he had this line that is incredible, that he's most well known for. Expect great things, attempt great things. Right? Because we expect great things, we attempt great things. We don't attempt things and hope they work out. We just have the expectation that great things will occur. Right? And so he goes on to say, and I love this about him, and I didn't know this until I was actually responding. I wanted to talk about him because of that first quote, but then I did a bunch of reading about him, and he had this line which made me like him even more. Talking about his own gifts, he said, I can plod. He wrote later, I can persevere to a definite pursuit. That's me, right? I just can keep going at something for a really long time. That's what I've never been. You know, when I was a Young Life leader, Steve said I wasn't very good at it. He's right. I never walked up on a high school campus and a bunch of kids flocked to me because they wanted to see me. I just showed up so many times that they felt bad for me, so the kids started saying hi to me, right? And so I just would go up with these charismatic Young Life leaders, and then they would forget names and I would remember names, and then I would continue to lead kids to faith in Christ, right? And so it's such a joy. But William Carey, he spent 41 years in India. He didn't take a furlough. And at the end of him being in India for 41 years, he statistically converted about 700 people. So in 41 years, he converted 700 people. Yet, he laid the foundation for a movement that so many other people would follow. And so sometimes he didn't reach every person in India. He didn't. He reached 700 people in 40 years, right? It's not significant statistically. But yet his life mattered because he started the modern missionary movement that has changed the world. And so I give you him as an example that when I say make all things new, your organization might be local or regional, and your statistics might not be 1 million, but your statistics are important, and your faithfulness of using your call is. And so my second challenge is to let God's grace flow through you. My third challenge is to pursue life in community. And yes, I wrote this book, and if I summarized the book, I would talk about, one of the things I would say is that fundraising, the difference between being a good fundraiser and being effective over the long term is community, right? That God has called all of us to be in community, and when fundraising is done in community, there's joy. When fundraising is done alone, you feel alone and you feel abandoned. And so that is part of what I mean. And this book I wrote, it was fun. It took me 3 years because I'm not a very good writer. I had 2 different editors, and then I sent it off to the IVP, and then they said, wow, it needs a lot of editing. And I was like, yeah, you're correct. So I'm thankful that they let me write it, but it's really 65 stories. There's 65 stories in the book of things that I've experienced. But you'll see the thread of community and relationship. Now, Arthur Brooks is a much better writer and a great author, and he has this line that happiness is determined by what you do and who you do it with, right? And all of you are involved in doing something amazing, right? You're involved in amazing organizations. And that is enjoyable. But if the people you work with, it's a toxic environment, you can only do it so long. There's a lot of people in the world that get up every day and work with people they don't like and doing a job they don't enjoy, right? But when we live life in community, like at the focus group, I love the people on our team. I feel so grateful that I get to be on the team. And then I love the work we do with our clients. And so I have tremendous joy. But it's in the context of community. And so in community, we can become who God created us to be. There's community in your family. There's community in your church, right? There's all these places. You should have a small group of friends. Like I talk about reading the Bible every day, but I also have these 4 friends that every day we read the Bible together, and every day we journal together and we share thoughts. One of them is my pastor, and he's in the back of the room. Dave, thank you very much for being here to support me today. But every day we read the Bible together in community, right? And when we live in community, when our lives are full of community, then it's pretty hard to be the Eeyore that says, no, we just need to make it, right? Because your community holds you forward, pushes you forward. And then my fourth and final point is that we need to trust God's promises. Obviously, when you think about trusting God's promises, verses like Deuteronomy 31:6 comes up, and be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. But I want to come back to Caleb, right? Like Caleb was this one spy that wasn't afraid. And recently I was at a Dallas Theological Seminary, wonderful organization in Texas, and they're one of our clients. We're helping them with a campaign that's going, I don't tell them, but I think we have nothing to do with it. God's just doing great things, right? Like I don't see how, it's been incredible to watch God's generosity. But DTS had a major donor event, and I went to it, and one of the speakers talked about Caleb, and it was so enjoyable for me because I got to see Joshua 14, and I'm going to read it to you. This is Caleb, and they didn't go into the promised land because they messed up, right? And so God sent them into the desert for 45 years. And they walk around, and then now they're going to enter the promised land. And Caleb says this. Now then, this is Joshua 14, 10 through 13. Now then, just as the Lord has promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved around in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard that the Anakites were there, and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out, just as he said. Then Joshua blessed Caleb and gave Hebron as in his inheritance. So you now have an 85-year-old man who is trusting the Lord and saying, I'm still here, I'm still strong, and I'm still trusting in God's promises, right? And that's my fourth charge, is that we would trust God's promises for you, for your family, for your, I could cry right now when I say family because that's hard, right? I have 4 teenagers. We could just start praying now, right? For your organizations, for your family, do we trust his promises for 45 years in the desert, right? So my hope is that we do. And I have proof that God is trustworthy, and the proof is on your table. It's not my book. It's this. This is, we started this last year, and it was so fun that we did it again. And this is the focus group's annual report. And we do not tell you a lot about the focus group. Instead, we were privileged to serve 100 and something organizations last year, and we took the time to put all the information about all the organizations that we serve. And this is God's proof. If you feel discouraged one day, then you should just open this book and look at what God is doing through the organizations around you, right? Think about what Courtney said this morning. But I encourage you to pick up a book, go to page 12. And on page 12, you'll see a ministry that's here named Access. And their mission, we build, I'm supposed to forward this. We build lifelong faith by helping parents and caring adults talk with their kids about what they otherwise wouldn't, one conversation at a time. And then if you look at the right, they served over 500,000 families and 500 churches and influenced over 1 million youth, all around the area of helping parents be equipped to understand how to deal with technology. Right? Hello, that is so needed, right? My kids use apps I've never heard of, and then, like the other day, I was like, oh, I want to Snapchat with you, Jack. And my son was like, I don't want to Snapchat with you, right? He's 15, right? So, and then let's go to page 30. Page 30 is Covenant Christian Academy. David Sanju, Dr. David Sanju is in the front row here. And David leads this incredible school. Whoops, I'm sorry, I went to DTS first. Oh, there it is. Okay, David leads this incredible school, and they have 158 families in Harrisburg, right? And they have 250 students. They've had 163 graduates. And David, in the middle of the pandemic, launched a campaign for $1.9 million and finished the campaign about a week ago at $2.5 million. Incredible, right? David, thank you. Big round of applause for what God did there. And then move to page 36, and you will see about Dallas Theological Seminary, 36. And, you know, they have 2,600 students enrolled. But the thing that's incredible is their campaign they're raising $250 million for is basically to give away seminary education to the world. And they've started offering free online seminary education. And listen to this. They have 500,000 students enrolled around the world. And so yeah, they have 2,600 students at their campuses, but they have 500,000 people who they're educating. Look with me on page 51. You'll see Globe. Globe is this really fun ministry that a few years ago their executive director Doug came to the symposium because one of their donors said the organization that we're with, that one of their donors supported an organization that the focus group was serving, and so the donor said to Doug, you should get to know the focus group. So Doug came here, I think out of obligation to the donor, like honestly, like kind of like I've had that experience where a donor says you should do something and you're like, okay, I'll do it. But we got to know Doug, and it's incredible to see. They've not only launched the campaign, but they finished the campaign, and you know, they have 300 missionaries in 50 nations, 30,000 leaders. It's an incredible little ministry in Pensacola. I've been to their humble offices, and yet they're doing something incredible around the world, right? You've never heard of them maybe, but yet look at their statistics. It's ridiculous.
64, or the front cover, right, is ICM. International Care Ministries is this organization that I bumped into several years ago. I was in Hong Kong doing interviews for a different organization, and I happened to meet the CEO of ICM, and it seemed too good to be true. Honestly, their work is so redemptive and so amazing that I flew my family to the Philippines because I almost didn't believe it to be true. Like, it was so good. They said they trained 1 million, at that time, they had trained 1 million ultra-poor families, people who live on less than 50 cents a day, and they had taken them through their Transform program where people not only learn how to manage money, but also learn basic hygiene, meet Jesus, and learn how to start a business. And I thought, you've taken 1 million people through this, and you're doing it on how much money? And so, like, literally before I took them on as a client, I wanted to make sure it wasn't like just a big Ponzi scheme, right? But they're legit, and they're doing this incredible work. And, you know, at this point now, they've taken 1.6 million ultra-poor families through. And now they're taking their proven model in the Philippines, and they're sending it around the world to five other countries. And so they're expanding their work. How incredible, right? More evidence for you to realize that God is doing something great. Then there's the Navigators, this incredible discipleship ministry, and Society of Classical Learning. You've heard about classical Christian schools. Like, this is an amazing organization that is helping the classical movement thrive. My wife and I love the classical movement. We bumped into it, and then it caused us to help start a classical school here in St. Augustine. It's incredible, but this is the organization that is helping all these schools thrive. And then lastly, I would just bring up Water Street Rescue Mission, which is on page 115. And this is a rescue mission that when I went there the first time, I walked through their doors and I took a tour of their facility, and I felt like I was at a hotel. Not a Ritz-Carlton, but certainly not a Days Inn, right? And they talked about the people they were serving as their guests, and that their residents and guests needed to be treated with dignity. And I walked around and I thought, this is very different. This is not like a plate of hot food that's plastic, right? This is caring for individuals. And if you look at their statistics, you know, like 45,000 meals during the holiday season to men and women and children, 170 guests served each night. They have a whole medical clinic that was really nice. Like, it felt like the Mayo Clinic where I go. And they serve 3,000 people in dental care each year, and Jack is here. And so the picture on the front is a picture of kids that ICM serves. I love that they show joyful pictures. It's not pictures of starving children. This is the goal, is that kids would have life. Doesn't this talk about life right here? This is like, you could use this picture. I want to frame it. So that's my outcome. My proof that scarcity isn't the goal is that all of you combined are doing incredible things. And my challenge for you is to think about what you would do if money were no object. What are the dreams? Now, it's relative, right? If you suddenly have $5 billion, you couldn't spend it next week. You couldn't. Like, we have had the privilege of helping organizations raise so much money that they can't spend it quick enough, right? But if money were no object within the context of your organization, what would you do, right? That's my first question. Second question is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Like, what would you try? Like, what is it that you always wanted to do, but you are afraid to say because you might fail? Failure is okay. Courtney, thank you for being vulnerable. Like, she just trusted the Lord, right? Like, that's what she did. And then the last question is what would change if you remember that God is working through you? Like, if you could just always remember that God is present with you, what would change? And so I would like you to turn to your tables and answer those questions, and maybe even write it down. Because in moments like these, sometimes you're bold enough to write down a vision or a dream that you're afraid to say when you're not at a conference like this. But if I think about my calling, what God has called me to do is to build his kingdom by telling you to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then to boldly go after the things that God has called you to, and stop saying no, right? Because there's a yes out there that I know can happen. I see it happening. I've seen it, and I see it every day with you all, and I hope you can see it together. So go ahead and take a few minutes and answer these questions, and then at 12 o'clock, we will, something's going, they're waving at me. Oh, I need to say goodbye to the virtual session. Okay, that's what they want me to do. And at 12 o'clock, we will pray for lunch and then tell you about the rest of the day. So please turn to your tables.